Secret Invasion, Marvel's Secret Invasion, Episode 4, The Harvest. It's your boy Icon with a Marvel TV review for you. And we got one episode to go. I will say this, like, the Marvel television cinematic Disney Plus universe does struggle from having these short seasons. More on that in the finale. So in this particular episode, the president just got shot and he was taken to the hospital. Fury brings him to the hospital, and then they're just, he wheels the president in, the doctors come out, and they're just like, oh, what happened? And he's like, he's been shot. And then they bring him into the emergency room, to the surgery room, and then the girl, the head nurse, or whoever was talking to him, she was just like, oh, do you have clearance to be in here? And then Fury looked at her like, woman, and he's like, I'm Nick Fury, like, I am the clearance, like, don't talk to me about authority. And then she was just like, if you don't have clearance, you can't come in. And then they take him in, and then Fury takes a chair, and he sits in front of the door that leads to the president, and now he's guarding the door. Rhodey's on his way, like Skrull Rhodey, who I think is a female Skrull, because the episode where it was revealed that Rhodes was a Skrull when he was in the shower, when the Skrull got out of the shower and it used the towel to like cover like the top part to the bottom. Like dudes usually just cover from the waist. So and then even with like the face, like with the eyes and everything, like it looked female. And I was just like, is this a female Skrull? Which is even like that makes it even more weird because of the overly jiving persona that this Skrull has. So Skrull Rhodey's talking to Gravik, and Gravik's just like, release the footage, of the compound and all the Skrulls within it. And then he's like, why would we do that? And Gravik's like, I'm going to leverage Fury to give us what we desire. So he ends up going to the president. So Skrull Rhodey goes to see the president. Fury's there, runs up on him, puts the gat in his neck, and then he's just like, I'm not letting your Skrull ass get 2 feet from the president. And then he was just like, well, in order for you to out me as a Skrull, you're going to have to shoot me. And the moment you shoot me, the Secret Service is going to kill you on the spot. So what you going to do, brother? And then after that, he was just like, fine, I'm leaving. And then, he was like, tell Gravik I'm coming for him. And then Rhodes was like, tell Gravik yourself. So then when Rhodes goes and talks to the president, Rhodes is just like, oh, this is a picture of the compound where the Skrulls are on Russian soil. We need to bomb it immediately. And then the president was like, well, if we bomb Russian soil, it's going to start World War III. And then he said, Rhodes was like, I'd rather World War III than extinction due to a Skrull invasion. And right then and there, aside from the fact that Fury told the president you can't trust Rhodes, like the light bulb should have gone off in the president's mind at that point. But I don't believe the president made a decision about whether or not he was going to bomb the whole, the whole compound site. Fury goes and sees Gaia, and then she's just like, oh, I need to bury my daddy. And then, Fury tried to talk to her. He was just like, listen, it's your time now. Like, your dad died for what he believed in, and now it's your turn to step up, to the plate. And I feel like this is another low-key Young Avengers initiative. So the entire Marvel television cinematic universe, and some of the movies as well, has basically been geared towards the new generation of, like, heroes. They're trying to get us used to these young people. And I said this in a previous review, the execution of how they're introducing these young people really suck. Like, only like 2 of them have been decent, but when they introduce like these kids, there's always something wrong with the kid to the point where it doesn't make you want to root for them as far as like being a hero is concerned. Like none of them. Like, but in this case, Guy was just like, oh, I ran away from my daddy because like I knew he'd fail. And I'm just like, well, that's not very heroic. But then he told, Fury was just like, take the body to the ex-wife. And he's like, she'll know what to do. Like, she'll give your father a proper burial. And then he was, and then she was just like, don't worry. She's like, I know what to do. And then, they both leave. Gaia now, she goes down to the ex-wife's house. And then when she sees her, because at this point Gravik basically told his minions, he was like, go kill her because she was supposed to kill Fury and she didn't do it. And then for some reason Gravik's minions, I guess they finally like woke up and smelled the coffee because they tried to kill him. Like they actually like they hit him with a sledgehammer, and then they put a plastic bag over his face and they were trying to suffocate him. And they were literally trying to kill him because I guess they all got to the point where it's like, oh, you've gone too far, Gravik. This is not what we signed up for. So then Gravik, obviously he's a Super Skrull, so he fought back and he murdered all of them. And then he was like, anybody else want some? Like anybody want to come? You want some? Come get some. So and then he was just like, send his team to Fury's wife's house and murder her for not killing Fury to begin with. So then Gaia shows up. the ex-wife shows up, and then she's just like, oh, were you the one sent to kill me? And then she's like, no, I'm here because Fury said you could help me bury my daddy. So they they bury her father. They do the scroll ritual, the scroll prayer. They burn him at the stake along with his wife's wedding ring. And then they go back inside the house. The two of them are talking, and then she was just basically telling him, she was just like, oh, it was hard, after Fury snapped. And she said, I bought this because they asked her, she was like, why is Gravik trying to kill you? And then she was just like, oh, insubordination. And then she said that, but I built a life here. She said, this is my house, this is my home. I built this with Nick, and I'm not giving it up. So if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die on my happy place. And then she said, one of the things about this house that she liked was that it provided Fury with the three things that he likes, protection, seclusion, security, whatever. And then she said that it also lots of light, because he likes to sit in the sun and like read books. And then she was just like, oh, I just stare at him for hours just watching him. And then she was like, oh, but did he stare at you the same way when you were in your own skin? And then she was like, that's none of your business. And then she was like, oh, I don't mean to offend, because she didn't mean it in the sense of like sexually, like did he like to bang you when you were green? She was just, because her whole thing is like the whole scroll thing with Gravik, it's like, what were they saying in the first episode? It was just like, oh, to once again be seen in my own skin or whatever. It's basically the whole thing about being ashamed of being a scroll and hiding yourself and putting on a face so that people don't know that you're a scroll. She was just trying to find out, like, did Fury actually love you for you instead of, the person whose persona you're pretending to be? But she took it as like, like she was on some like sex shit. But then she was just like, she was like, oh, we made it work with our marriage and everything. And then she was just like, but if Gravik comes for me, she's like, I got something for his ass. And once she said that, that's when the bullets started flying. And then her and Gaia, they went into the panic room. They both put on like bulletproof tactical vests that had guns and weapons and operations. And everybody that Gravik sent to kill them didn't work. The two of them came together back to back. They murdered all the scrolls that tried to kill them, which is crazy because it's like they're killing their own people. But c'est la vie, because they were trying to kill them. And then after that, like I guess she drove Gaia to the train station, and then Gaia left, and then she was just like, oh, be careful, baby. And then we don't know where Gaia went or what she was going to do. We just know that they murdered a bunch of scrolls at the house, and now she got to clean up that mess, and Gaia's going off to do God knows what. And thank goodness for Joan, like, for the love of God. Like, she's actually my favorite character on this whole series. Like, I love this. Like, Joan, I believe that's it, the British lady. Like, she showed up to, I guess, the person who was her boss, and she basically blew a hole in his hand and in his leg. And then when his Secret Service people came, she was just like, oh, look, he's turning green. So she's like, so start talking about, the experiments and the Super SCROLS serum. And then he ended up giving up the location. I guess they took the scroll to prison or whatever. And then she goes down to the location, and then the two scientists that created the Super SCROLS serum, when they showed up, she was like, oh, tell me all about your scroll serum and how it works and everything. And then he's just like, oh, we're not going to talk to you. And she's like, no, I'm talking to her, talking to your lady. And then the lady basically spilled the beans. And then after they spilled the beans, she torched the place, like their laboratory. She torched their laboratory. That's laboratory in London. So like they torched the laboratory, and then after that he was like the husband. I guess they were husband and wife. The husband grabbed the wife, and then he was just like, I'm not gonna let her betray Gravik. I'll kill her if you don't back off. And then she just pulled out, and then like Joan just pulled the gun and just shot his ass. He dropped like a sack of potatoes, and I was like, yo, this chick is gangster. I don't know what they did with the female, because the male scientist is dead. I don't know what they did with the female scientist. Maybe they got her locked up somewhere too, along with the fake prime minister or whoever that guy was. But then now Joan is on her way to the airport to go pick up one Nicholas Fury. So when Fury shows up, he shows up at the airport, and this was actually a nice little callback to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because when Fury left, he got on the plane, and he flew to where Joan was. Joan met him at the airport. She picked him up, but Fury had to disguise himself because he's listed public enemy #1, because Scroll Road said he's releasing the footage of Nick Fury killing Maria Hill. And after that footage is out, like, Fury is now, he's public enemy #1. Joan picks him up from the airport, and then Fury, he had like an image inducer, like face mask thing, and it was the same face mask, it was the same image inducer face mask that they used on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They gave it to Agent 13. They had it, because like she used it to turn into May. There were other episodes where other people used it, where they had to put on a wig and then put on the thing that like covers the face. But then Joan even said, she was just like, all this technology, and all it does is just cover your face. And then he said that's because this is the old model, it's not the new model. So they have a new model that an image inducer that changes your entire appearance, but he was still using the OG Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. model that only changes your face. And again, that was a nice callback to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So then they go down to a gravesite. gravesite. And then that's when he tells Joan, he's just like, yeah, he was like, you know, me and my wife, we were married here. You know, he said we honeymooned here. So I got a grave here, you know, where I hid the super soldier, like Avengers, like serum, the harvest, as they say. He's like, I hid the harvest here. And then that's when Joan found out. She was like, oh, your wife is a Skrull. And he was just like, yeah. He said, we picked this place to honeymoon because Skrulls like the cold. And then she was just like, oh, so this whole thing is your fault, you know? And then he was just like, yes, because he said back with the Thanos snap, you know, when they had the battle for Earth, as they called it, he said that when the battle was over, Nick Fury, he said he sent all the Skrulls to pick up Avengers DNA, which was scattered like all over the place. He said that they got the DNA for pretty much every Avenger, including Carol Danvers, which was weird because I didn't know she bled during that fight because she showed up at the last minute when it was almost over. And I'm assuming that the non-superpowered people are the ones whose DNA that they don't have, but he said that he sent a team of Skrulls to go in there and collect the DNA, and one of the Skrulls that he sent in there was Gravik, which is why he knows about the harvest. He knows about the Avengers' DNA, which is why he wants the harvest so he can create Super Skrulls. Havoc called Fury, and he told him, he said, listen, if you don't give me the harvest, I'm going to have the president attack the Russian compound, which is going to kill not only a bunch of Skrulls, but it's also going to kill the humans that we have captive there, Rhodes included, because I'm assuming at this point Rhodes is in that compound. He said, we're going to kill all the humans that we have captured and we took their identities of, and then it's going to start a big war. So now Fury's trying to prevent that from happening. He ends up taking the harvest, you know, like the Avengers DNA. He takes the Avengers DNA, and then Jonah's just like, so let me get this straight. So she was just like, so after all this battle, after all this arguing and everything, she's like, I'm just going to give him the serum. And then he was just like, yep, that's the plan. And then he's just like, but before I go give him the serum, I got to get ready for battle. And then he goes into a room, he pulls out the eye patch, and then he pulls out the jacket, he takes off his hat, and I'm like, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, he's just like, oh, time to go to work. Time to handle some business. And I'm like, bro, it's been 5 episodes and you ain't done shit. Like, so now all of a sudden, now that you have an eye patch on, now all of a sudden you mean business. And I'm like, we ain't done nothing yet. And then you just said you were going to hand over the serum anyway. So if you're just going to fold and just hand over the serum to Gravik, you don't need the jacket and the eye patch for that. And I was like, that was an unnecessary dramatic moment that led nowhere because, like I said, like up until this point, he ain't do nothing anyway of any significance. But there are shenanigans afoot because before he got ready for battle, he actually did pick up the phone. He called somebody and he said, it's time. Now, he could have been talking to anybody. He could have been talking to Gaia. He could have been talking to his wife. He could have been talking to an Avenger. He could have been talking to anybody. Personally, I think he was talking to Maria Hill because I don't believe Maria Hill dead. And if Maria Hill is dead, that was very sad. And y'all did her dirty because she could have went out. The way she went out was dry. Like, the way Talos went out was dry. Like, y'all could have gave Talos, like, a better set. It's just like, yeah, Maria Hill's been around for a while, so I'm like, nah, she ain't dead. Like, I feel like that was Maria, because they were very secretive about, like, you know, who they're calling and all these conversations. Like I said, to me, my prediction is that it was Maria Hill. So Fury walks off into the sunset with his leather jacket on and his eye patch, and he gonna do some shit. We got 1 episode left in the finale, and thank you for tuning in. So, I mean, I am enjoying this show, but I'm just like, for the love of God, ain't nothing happening. Like, he could have waited till the 6th episode to put the jacket on if you weren't gonna do nothing. But that's it. Share your questions, comments, and concerns down below. Let me know what you thought about this particular episode of Secret Invasion. What do you think is going to happen in the finale? Share your questions and we'll continue to talk about it. Check out my other videos because I have Warrior on the channel, which is the shite, as well as my adventures with Superman, which is surprisingly really good. Like, it's really good. But next week we conclude the invasion of Marvel. So I guess after that, once Secret Invasion is over, the next is the Marvels. But we have the Harley Quinn series starting next week, Tuesday, I believe. So we're going to review Harley Quinn. So Harley Quinn starts the day before Invasion ends. So we're still going to be doing 3 shows at a time. So look out for Harley Quinn, look out for Warrior, look out for My Adventures with Superman, and look out for my series, season, whatever finale for Marvel's Secret Invasion. So that was it, guys. So until next time, take care. Enjoy your time out in the sun. Look out for the harvest. And until then, we're out this.